So thank you so much for joining me. For everyone watching, we've got Jason Beck joining us. He's head of design at Motorway. So yeah, why don't we start off with you telling me a little bit more about your journey into design leadership?
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. Nice to be here. Seen the offices, very fancy. My journey to design leadership, specifically around leadership, is long. I started my career in design like pretty much the start of the internet. So I went through the whole .com bubble periods, and back then, to be a designer in the internet, you were basically a web designer.
Yes.
And had to code, and it was everything like that. And I think it became quite apparent to me fairly quickly that you could, at the time, move from job to job. So you could leave one job, get another job. So much money sloshing around the industry. And I think it was just my third job, I think in 2003 maybe, where I joined, it's the only big company I've ever worked at, by the way. For me, it's just startups. But I joined HarperCollins, publishing company, as a senior designer, and that involved mentoring another designer. And that's, I just found I really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. I got more satisfaction out of some of that than actual hands-on designing. So that was the start, really. And then it's just grown incrementally from there, different roles. For a long period of time, I was at a company called Cheap Flights, then Momondo. We merged companies, and at that period, I almost by default became the leader there because there wasn't really a plan. It's still kind of startup territory, and you just assume roles. So more people joined, and they were reporting into me. It gets to the point where you get to around 5 or 6 people reporting into you, you realise that you can't be a hands-on designer anymore.
Yeah.
So we took it from there, and then it's been a succession of head of designs at various different companies in loads of different industries.
Nice. And do you feel like where you kind of, I don't say almost like fell into it, but with the startups where it's just like, okay, these people just report to you and you kind of rolled with it, do you feel like you got the support that you needed first moving into leadership, or do you feel like you made a lot of mistakes on the way?
I made a ton of mistakes. Yeah, I think the pros and cons of working in startup land is that you often wear several hats. So sometimes my job wasn't head of design, it was more kind of product leader generally, or my background's in brand design actually. So it's been a mixture of those two disciplines throughout my career. So I think you make mistakes, of course you make mistakes, then you learn, hopefully, and just get better and better. I think because some people that inspired me along the way, I think one of those kind of people that stand out, a bit like having a really amazing teacher at school. But to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't go into any formal management training. Never done any leadership workshops. It's just what I've learned along the way.
Nice. And in terms of your transition from brand to product design, tell us a little bit more about that.
I don't know if it's a transition, because my team right now consists of brand designers and product designers and researchers and writers. I think it's just been part of the industry I've worked in. So the internet industry, it's websites, apps, and other digital products are very technical. So you work with engineers, and then you discover this thing called user experience, which the UX wasn't really a term. Back when I started, we didn't have product managers. But as the industry's changed, my job as a designer has changed and kind of morphed along with the rise in product culture, I guess. What I would say, it's important to me personally as a design leader to really straddle those two areas. Actually, I think it's really advantageous to have visual designers, brand designers feeding into product and UX decisions, because what we're talking about is just one customer experience. It's one experience that your end customer will have. So to try and divide it up behind the scenes is kind of a bit weird. So we're trying to make sure that the team is cross-disciplined and support each other.
Nice. And I guess what I quite often see is brand tends to sit within the marketing teams quite traditionally. So was that the case when you first joined Motorway? Was it a transition of them kind of moving into your team, or have you just felt that it works better to have everyone under like one umbrella?
Yeah, for Motorway it's always been this way. Although when I started there was only 4 designers, so we've grown very rapidly and grown in all those areas. I've worked at companies where we've had both scenarios, where we have report to marketing. Previous automotive company, that was the case. And for me, it kind of doesn't really work, because you create these silos and you have to really work at the conversations between brand and visual and UX and products. And sometimes there's a conflict there. So I kind of firmly believe that design should be, a broad church, but I think coming under one kind of leadership area makes sense in my world. I know people have different answers, but for me it works this way.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've seen it work really well both ways, but I think when brand sits with marketing as well, it's like that collaboration piece and communication is absolutely key, because what you sometimes see is like both teams going on separate tangents, and then it just doesn't marry up as you would want it to. Yeah,
I think you get disconnections between what you're trying to do. We're really collaborative at Motorway, so I love getting the brand designers involved in conversations around product. Really good example is top of funnel experiences, right? So you come into you might have seen a social media ad or whatever kind of your entrance was to find us, and then you want to hit a landing page, a home page, something like that. Now we have our brand designers really heavily involved in what those touch points look like, and that makes the products better, makes your product experience better, makes the product people highest the quality bar.
100%. So during your time at Motorway, you've seen you scale the team quite heavily. So how have you managed to maintain and build the best working culture for the team?
At Motorway, well, anywhere actually I've worked, and you'll get this answer from lots of design leaders. Culture is the key, it's the cornerstone to everything. If you haven't got that, you're not going to build a successful team. But what is it? What's culture? What's design culture? And when I joined, nearly 2 years ago actually. Just gone quickly. The first thing I did was just sit there and listen to people. We had 4 designers, as I said at the time. I spent a lot of time with one of our designers who'd been there, designer number 1, to really solidify that relationship, so build that kind of trust. And then after that, to kick off the year, I just put everyone together and said, look, this is our team, we run it together. And we talked about having a vision. We haven't had that before. What's our design vision? What's our North Star? What do we believe as designers? And underneath that, what are our principles? How do we sort of practice? How we support each other in design crits, for example. And we did this as a collective exercise, and that gave everyone ownership, because they were part of that conversation. And we used that as the foundation to move forward, really. So that includes things like, what are our rituals? What do we want to do? How do we talk to each other? These start building culture, really. Yeah. We have, for example, at Motorway, we bookend the week with a Monday coffee meeting. I know other people do this as well. It's not a secret sauce. An informal chat. How's the weekend? Yeah. What's happening this week? We bookend it with a Friday campfire meeting, where we ideally break out a beer or 2 and say, how was the week? What did the weekend? Those kind of social connections start building trust within the team, and you build culture. And then we have two key meetings during the week that we call design jams. I think I've talked to you about this in the past. Which we want to subvert the traditional design crit and make sure this is a much more creative atmosphere, collaborative atmosphere, where it's not just critiquing someone's work, it's actually coming up with ideas together and collaborating. These are things that build culture, because you start opening conversations and building trust and having some fun, actually.
Yeah, nice. And then I guess, have you had anyone challenge your culture in a positive or negative way, I guess?
It's that, I just give it a no, I haven't really. I think because you make it inclusive, it's not like this is Jason's culture. It's, you know, guys, this is something we've all discussed together. And I always say that we can change it. And we talk about this a lot, like yearly now. We've reset the year with a design day, spend the whole day together talking about our culture, and we work together. And do we want to change things? Do we want to change those design jam meetings? We want to talk to each other differently. It's giving people the ownership of it, so it's not an enforced culture, which I think makes it really important. It's malleable then, and it means it doesn't create resentment.
And I've noticed from LinkedIn socials, your team at Motorway always seems to be very happy. So what do you put having good retention down to as well?
I wonder if that's been more, I mean, this is a culture, so it's a previous question. It's very much having that culture where people want to work. You know, I always say that being a designer is like a vocational job. We really love what we do, generally speaking. And if you create an environment where people can really excel and they're empowered and they feel valued, then you're going to get retention, because why would you look somewhere else? I know people's heads get turned by money. I mean, that's normal. But if it's like, what is it, a bit more money, but actually I really love this place, then you're going to keep people. I'm not complacent about that. It's hard work. This is something that my main job as a design leader is to create that environment and maintain that culture, and we'll build upon it. But yeah, that's all I can do. If I do that, then we'll have retention.
Yeah, definitely. I always think as well, how the wider business perceives design and respects it in its own right always helps as well. So would you say that it's taken work your side to get engagement and education from like wider stakeholders on the value that design brings, and getting that buy-in from them as well for the team to also feel supported in that?
I think we're in a really unique position at Motorway because one of the founders is a designer. And it means we have designers at the top table, and the business knows the value of good design. That's, from my experience, it's pretty rare. So I find that a piece of luck. What I do talk about in my peer group of leaders across the product organisation, so director of product, director of data, etc., and engineers, they run their teams in the way they run their teams best. So we learn from each other. I can't be honest with you, I'm the oldest person there, sort of. But I've got quite a lot of experience, and I talk to those guys about things that I've learned, maybe things that I want to pick up with their respective teams as well.
Nice. So it sounds like it's quite like an open forum in leadership, in the sense that you can all get advice from each other, but have the freedom to do it your way. Yeah,
very much. There's no blueprint that Motorway gives you. There's trust in the managers. And also, I don't think I'll be able to do what I do with the designers with, say, product managers. They think differently. They're different. It's a different profession.
Yeah, that's very true. And then one thing I see as a recruiter, particularly when it comes to IC hands-on designers that want to stay down that path, what we tend to see is that a lot of the time people are looking to move on because they feel like there's not necessarily like a proper framework or a clear direction of where they're going in terms of their achievements in a company. So quite keen to hear your thoughts on progression frameworks, you know, the difference between the IC route, leadership route, and what you've personally put in place as well before.
Yeah, good. This is something I'm quite confident about, because at successive companies I've worked at, I've built frameworks or written them. And I think coming to Motorway, I was able to combine previous knowledge and previous mistakes, frankly. And one of the things I did when I started was create a progression framework which looked at different tracks, an IC track and a management track, and emphasised that you can go down any track. You can be really high in the company and still be an IC. That's to be encouraged, actually. We have people that are fantastic designers who would not want to manage. We have people that I can see already there's the spark of management in them because they're interested in people. So with our framework, it's like a matrix, right? So there's levels, and we very regularly, you'll sit with your line manager, in some cases with me, and look at the definitions and track where you are. And that gives us a really tangible conversation to have around how do you move to the next level. And yeah, as I said, it's defined in IC, it's defined as a manager. We have hard skills and soft skills there. Soft skills are really super important, actually.
I think that probably arguably the toughest, soft skills sometimes.
It can be to define if you're having conversations with people, because you'll want to have examples, right? So really, really simple examples, communication, as we can have conversations with people around. It might be like level one, you can listen to people, you have conversations within your team, your squad, and then as you rise up through different levels, it's about how do you talk to the wider company. At the furthest end, it's how do you talk to the industry? What's your communication style? So the framework gives us, I always say to people as well, we're not trying to gamify promotion, we're just trying to enable conversation.
Yeah.
And the framework gives us that idea to have a conversation on these things.
Nice. I think it's really important to have it in place. I think you see it too often. I'm glad it's now what looks like it's moving away from the trend of you start a career, you then have to move into leadership. It's expected of you. If you want to climb a career ladder, that is where it goes. And it's almost there's not always a thought put into, well, what does it actually look like if someone doesn't want to lead? Because not everyone is built to be leaders. Some people are built to be really talented, like hands-on designers.
Yeah, well, you have a really amazing principal product designer. And we completely encourage him to just do what he wants, but just stick on that IC track so we get the most benefit from him from a business point of view, and he loves it. And you can look at like Johnny Ive, some examples outside, really well-known examples of people that are top ICs and are industry leaders.
And then quite a thought-provoking question, is there anything you would do differently if you were to scale the team again?
I find this tricky to answer because I think coming to motorway, it's been the combination of mistakes I made in the past, maybe.
Yeah.
And I like to think now where I am, I don't think I would change it actually. Having a team that's very cross-functional, so as I said, there's brand designers and visual designers and UX designers and researchers and writers, that makes the team stronger, so these disciplines. And I've looked at that in a very organic way, see what does the company need, what does the product team need, how do we service marketing. So at Motorway, I've really listened to those areas and growing organically doesn't mean you don't overhire. Yeah. I've made mistakes in the past at other companies where you're given a budget and you think, great, I'm going to hire 10 designers, and within 18 months you're thinking that's not enough stuff for these guys to do.
Yeah.
That's quite common in startup world, this kind of 18-month bust cycle. So no, I've just learned from mistakes, and I don't think I'd do it differently in Motorway. I mentioned to you when we got here about legacy team. So
yes.
when you join a company, sometimes you're not running a team, you're looking after teams already there, and that's more difficult actually, because these people are embedded in the company. You didn't hire them, but they're equally just as important. So you have to create a different way of really listening really hard to those that kind of legacy. Yeah. Not a nice term, but
the originals.
The OGs, yeah.
Nice. And has that taught you anything differently about how you would maybe, when you're hiring people, how you would assess them, like in the terms of, have you had anyone on the team that you thought, wow, like you've really blown me away, and not in a rude way, but maybe you wouldn't have thought to hire that skill set when you were initially hiring?
I'm really not naming any names at all, but I've hired people that I thought would be amazing, and it turns out they weren't. Right? So, and in that, you always have to be very reflective and think, what did I miss?
Yeah.
Was it a vanity hire? Was I just blown away by their portfolio or their background? And I have done that in the past. I was, again, not naming any names, but I've hired people that I thought on paper or at the interview stage were just brilliant. And you think, wow, I really need this guy in my team. And then, they join and it really unbalances the rest of the team because they become this really big force of nature. We haven't done that. That's motivating, but yeah, there's been mistakes for sure. Sometimes, despite the experience of hiring people, you do see these amazing people with a great CVs and you think, wow, they used to work at the Big Four and they look amazing. More often than not, they're the kind of people that will actually unbalance the team.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the current state of the design market, and where do you think the biggest gaps are at the moment in terms of skill gaps?
So I was interviewing someone today actually, a junior designer, who I think we're putting for.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Biggest gaps. The market's been really weird. I mean, you know this more than I actually, but the last couple of years, the design market is odd. It's been a period of time where there is no one to hire, and then a dearth people on the market. What I'm finding is it's still, it hasn't changed much. It's still very difficult for juniors to break in.
Yeah.
No one wants to give them a break, and I kind of feel well, I have them all, but you can't. You've got to think about the business. So there's a lot of junior designers in the market. That's them. I'm finding it's difficult to hire seniors at the moment for some reason. I think they're highly sought after. I think the term senior designer is really broad as well. Now it covers a huge range of, it's people that have been designing for 2 years, they get promoted into senior design roles, and you kind of think, well, it's the same as someone that may still have that title but be 8 years into their journey. Yeah. So I find the whole senior scene a bit odd, but yeah, and then therefore difficult to hire for. When I'm looking for that role in terms of the job title, you must want to dismiss the job title and just go deeper into their actual experience. So that's tricky. Seeing quite a lot of design leadership roles actually.
Yeah.
I'm not looking, just saying, but there's a lot out there that I've seen which is encouraging. Skills. There's been this tension, it's a tension, but the industry's changed. It keeps going backwards and forwards, it's a product designer, do we just have UX designers and UI designers? Yeah. So that seems to bounce backwards and forwards over the years, and still, lots of debate on LinkedIn about this. So at the moment, I'm seeing UX slightly undervalued compared to what it used to be. I think it used to be, special magic words, you'd say. And now anyone can do a UX boot camp and a UX designer. So I think it's kind of disturbed the marketplace a bit too.
No, definitely. And I guess for junior designers, I think it's a really interesting one because it is so hard to crack that first role and to get your foot in the door. What advice would you give to people that are on that path of trying to do that right now?
Gosh, yes, I can think of even friends that are trying to do this. It's tough. You need that first break. I know you can do, I know it's not fancy unpaid work, but you can. You do self-starting projects. I think the biggest advice I would suggest is get a mentor. Right? There's people that, people in my position that have just, are ancient and done it all. So reach out to people. They will give you some advice and their contacts as well, and you can start building up your contact book. I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, it's really, really hard, and it's almost like where do you begin as well?
Yeah. Gosh, where did I begin? Well, my route was much more traditional. It was going to university and studying branding. And, you have that kind of educational background. But you still need someone to give you a break. I mean, honestly, best advice from me would be keep persevering. There is a job out there, because there are a lot of jobs out there. Don't think about just going for big or small companies. Go for all of them. You just need to get your foot in the door somewhere. And reach out to people on LinkedIn, doorstep them. I had someone who got in contact with me today on LinkedIn, asking if I would be up for being a mentor. I'm like, you know what? Of course, it's fine. I'm happy to give back. And I think if you can make those connections, they can really help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Worst case, someone's going to say no.
Exactly.
Yeah. So on the topic of design strategy, I feel like it's something everyone is talking about at the moment. What do you see the link as between design strategy and benefits for the business and contributing to that wider goal?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because sometimes it's not defined, often it's not defined. What's a design strategy? The business strategy, we say business strategy, we have a product strategy that supports the growth of the business. And then, but what's our design strategy? Does it even matter? Do we even need one? Now, for me, design strategy is important because it again acts as a bit of a North Star for your team. This is why I wish I had a whiteboard. What we've done recently as a team actually is look at our purpose as a company. We have like everyone, we have a vision and we have mission statements. And underneath that, I've placed our design vision and said, well, how does this relate? How does our design vision, how does it feed into our purpose as a business? Build a better car market for tomorrow. So we did a collective exercise, that's how we work together, drawing lines between different words. And it gives us a connection between the what we're trying to do as a business to our design vision. So there's a relationship there. And then underneath that, we talk about how do we fulfill the vision. This is what they call a strat house design. To support our vision, which supports the purpose, we need a strategy. And our strategy for the next 12 months, we've defined 4 strategic themes. One of them is, for example, faster decision making. And then we talk about that, how do we enable that? Well, it means better access to data, or better understanding of the data. It means empowering people to make decisions and fail fast. So beneath your strategic themes, or pillars we call them, we bullet point ideas around how we achieve that strategy. And then you can get more tactical about how you actually achieve the actual bullet points from that strategy. So in this way, we have now a design strategy which has a direct connection to our purpose right at the top of the tree as a business. And it's the first time we've done that. It's the first time I've actually done it at any organisation in that complete way. And it gives people a real sense of like, this is why I'm here every day. This is what my small contribution makes to the business success, or large contribution. And I found it a really good exercise personally to go through as well. So I can say, as a design leader, if anyone asks, I say, well, this is what my team's doing. They're looking at these 4 key areas, and this is why we're saying it's going to actually generate money and make the company successful.
Nice. And why do you think, I hate to use the term seat at the table, but why do you think design traditionally hasn't had that say in strategy, or why there isn't a direct link between design strategy and business goals?
I think maybe it's a bit ethereal in some organisations. What is design?
Yeah.
At the worst end, it seems a bit fluffy and hey, it's the guys that make things look good. The whole, I hope that probably still happens in some places. It's not tangible, like some things are, like engineering might be, or especially like marketing. Marketing spends, we spend loads of money on this. Loads of people came to our products, and then we can see a return on investment there. With design, the return on investment is more difficult to nail down. Why have you spent 5 weeks redesigning a homepage? So how do you quantify that? It's sometimes difficult in some organisations, I think. But I think that's a challenge. That's a design leadership challenge. I would suggest to anyone who wants to been design leadership. Nail the management stuff. The people stuff is really key. It's super important. Then get into the strategy and start. If it's not at the top table in your company, then kick the door down. So, hey, I've got this. This is why it's my team contributes to your success.
Yeah, definitely. And how have you helped educate C-suite stakeholders on value of design? This is what we're working towards. This is how it's linked. Is it a case of you guys having those regular syncs? Did it take you time to get buy-in? Probably not that most way, given
it's true.
the design background.
We haven't had to do that most way. My bosses are completely supportive and knowledgeable about the importance of design. Other companies, I can think in the past, you lean on things like often you're the team that actually has meaningful conversations with customers. So marketing will go out and reach out to customer base, but they're looking at it in a different way. Like, what are our segments? We have personas. For me, I can think of a previous place where I commissioned a really in-depth research piece. It was the first time we'd actually sat down and had in-depth interviews with people about their behaviour and what they think. So you can start bringing in, if you're able to do that within your company, then you can start bringing that knowledge. And the tricky thing is then sharing that knowledge.
Yeah.
As I've got two tips for that. One is if you have data, quantitative data plus some quotes, or ideally a video if you talk to a customer, it's really powerful.
Yeah.
If you shove that in front of your CEO and say, well, you might think this is what people are saying.
Yeah.
That could be, an eye-opener. And the second is I call it the kitchen method, where stakeholders, C-suite level people are time poor, right?
Yeah.
Very difficult to get hold of them. I've been inviting people to just camp out in the kitchen, because eventually they're going to make a cup of tea. And so having a conversation, let's just open a conversation, saying, hey, glad to catch you, because I just wanted to show you this. And they're kind of unguarded as well.
Yeah.
There's no, you have to prep up some deck.
Yeah, and then so they spend less time in the kitchen, you noticed.
Yeah, they never come anymore.
Could you talk us through your split between, in terms of your role between leadership, strategy, any hands-on design work you do? I think what we've noticed is a trend towards people looking for heads of designs that are also hands-on with the craft. Keen to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Strong thoughts on this. I don't think people should do two jobs. And I think if you're, as a head of design, being asked to also spend time doing hands-on design, it's kind of not fair. You might be very passionate. I'm still a designer. I love design. But I know I can't give that my all if I'm also managing people and strategizing bits and pieces. To a certain extent, it depends on the size, right? You might be a very small team where, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 designers, and actually, it kind of makes sense, you keep your hand in. But as you get bigger, you're going to have to suggest to your, company owners, like, I can't fulfill my position, and it's, it's almost. The other thing I'd say about this, in my personal experience at a previous job, I took a step back actually. I was forced to because of COVID, so I had to get a job. And it happened to be a job which was, I think the role was senior UX manager, something like that. And part of that role was, I was only managing kind of 2 people. So sort of the role was also very much hands-on. I was suddenly embedded into a product squad, I'd never been in one of those before, and I had to learn Figma. And I'm like, well, is it a bit like Illustrator? So that was really useful for me, as someone that's been in the industry for about 20 years, to actually step back and reconnect with the craft. I think made me a better leader now. So I can now really better appreciate what my team's frustrations are. In terms of my time, it's more and more, the people side of it is still probably the main focus, actually. Conducting one-to-ones, making sure everyone's got their goals, and they have mapped against our framework. These are really important things, and like we said with the previous question on culture, it's kind of the cornerstone of why I'm there, to maintain and build and motivate people so that we have this great design culture. More and more, getting more involved in strategy. I'm not asked to do this, by the way. I'm forcing my way into the conversation with design strategy. I'm saying that's taken up more of my time now, at least 25% of my time. And the only way to do that is to have good managers in place underneath me that I really trust, and they're empowered to run their own teams and line reports in certain ways. So you can't really do that unless you have that structure in place.
Yeah.
But now it is emerging a bit more, spending more time strategizing.
And then on the topic of design managers, how do you encourage them to best spend their time? They are doing both roles, in a sense, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we have, how many people? 1, 2, 4, 3 people underneath me that are managing people, but quite small teams. So they're, to a large extent, at least one of them actually is just learning their management skills. So wants more support. I try to be a good role model to them, emphasize that you'll find your own style of management. You don't have to copy mine, God forbid, that'd be awful. But very much I've been doing it for just a very long time. So I'm happy to give them advice, and I do steer them in different directions. And, I want to encourage them to have their own voice. But I've been in their position. I know it's tricky, and they will also make mistakes, and that's fine.
And then to finish things off, what's your go-to places for like design resources, whether it's training, things to help your hands-on designers in the team?
We have, so everyone has a learning budget at Motorway, which they're leaning on. We have a service called Learnably. Okay. So we encourage people to use that. On there are books and courses and bits and pieces. I also encourage people, for me actually, the thing that helps me the most now is going to conferences and speaking at events and making those kind of industry connections. So we very much encourage that. We have a really good relationship with Figma, so we're part of their beta program, and we've been able to get involved in their product development, which is exciting. Yeah. And then I guess going back to being like a good leader, good manager, it's encouraging people to do that and spend time on that personal growth. And the ideal is that on a Friday or Friday afternoon you devote some time to personal growth, and I certainly encourage it, and I will support it and protect people if they want to do that. But it's like people think, well, I'm kind of busy, I haven't got time for that.
You can put it off easily.
So it's incumbent on me to really keep pushing them to do that. Yeah. And look at their learning budget and say, you've still got like £400 left to spend this year, and if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So you have to keep, as a manager, you have to keep an eye on those resources and make sure people use them and don't get burnt out.
Nice. And what are your thoughts on conferences, events, meetups? Are you seeing as many now that you used to see pre-COVID?
Yeah, it's picking up. It's really picking up, actually. I think the last year, it's the scene is kind of alive again, and it's really good. Yeah, I've really been enjoying being part of that conversation with people. I did a talk recently at Stepstone, which is brilliant fun. You meet new people, and it's daunting and scary, but you do it, and there's a really good buzz afterwards. And I think it's partly I'm promoting the company, I represent the company, but really it's about your personal brand as well. And it was quite difficult doing that in the online conference world, I think. I think it's the micro interactions with your face to face, which we can now do again, and I think it's really picked up.
Yeah, definitely. And you hosted a few of your own, haven't you?
We have, thank you for reminding me, a motorway. We have Design Talks. We just discussing today Design Talks 4, which we want to do probably the next month or 6 weeks, something like that. We have a really good space, a motorway, an auditorium space, and we run these very informal events. We have a panel of people. We don't have speakers. What I'd like to do is have a kind of Graham Norton style, all sit together. I'll throw some questions at people. We kind of keep it loose and fast and a bit informal. It's fun, and they've been really successful. We didn't know what we were getting into when we started it, but we've been surprised about the kind of feedback we got from people. So yeah, we really enjoy doing it.
Nice, no stopping now.
No stopping now. Design Talks 4. We're thinking of the next topic actually today, and it might be around accessibility, diversity, and inclusion in design. I think that might be where we're going.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to cover.
Yeah.
Really coming to that.
Good, you'll get invited. No problem.
Thanks. Thank you so much for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me. It's been really good fun.
Thank you so much for watching. For the full episode, check out Wave Talent on YouTube.